はじめまして、私の名前はカーラ・スウィックです。私はアラスカ州のパーマ市から来ました。今、パーマ高校で日本語1、2、3、4を教えています。どうぞよろしくお願いします。Well, it all comes down to an opportunity. I was sitting actually here at Palmer High School where I am right now. I was a junior in high school. And thank goodness I was listening to the announcements that morning because they said we're looking for a junior who's interested in going to Palmer's sister city in Saroma, Japan. If you're interested, apply. I thought to myself, I don't have anything going on this summer. Sounds interesting. And I applied and I was so lucky I was chosen. I went over to the town of Saroma. It's a town of 5,000 up in the north of Hokkaido. And I got to spend 3 weeks living with a host family, going to school, and everything fascinated me. Waking up, finding salmon, miso soup, and rice salad for breakfast. I thought this looks like a great dinner. Sleeping on a futon, going and just using my gestures. I carried around a little book and I wrote down Japanese words. I made lots of friends. I kind of felt like a celebrity because I was the only non-Japanese person in the town. People were so excited when I started to try to use Japanese. It was just absolutely the best experience of my life. Having those 3 weeks in Japan opened my eyes to the world. I then really got interested in the rest of the world too. After that summer, I wanted to do exchange. I actually became an exchange student in Sweden. I did a year in Scotland. I've traveled to thanks to that experience, about 35 to 40 countries. And I just want to soak up everything that's out there in the world. And so I knew I wanted to go into teaching because I'm kind of a school nerd. I love learning and I love being around students. And I actually went to school and majored in secondary education with an emphasis on English, but I always took Japanese on the side as a second teaching career. And when I started my teaching here in the States, I went to my principal and I said, I know my major is English, but I would love to start a Japanese program at your school. It's my passion. And they let me start with 1 class, and then we added 2 classes and 3 classes. And by the end, I was teaching all Japanese and not English, but it was absolutely that first exchange. And then I did end up going back to Japan, to the sister city, kind of opportunities again. I wanted to go back. I wrote a letter to the mayor and I said, this was when I was in college. I said, I would love to come and I'll volunteer. I'll do anything I can do. would love to come back to Saroma. And they welcomed me back. I went and I did some volunteering in their schools as a college student in the summer. And then they knew I was in education and they actually approached me and said, we would like you to come and be our first assistant language teacher from the sister city when you have your degree. And so kind of like JET, but it was through the sister city program. And I spent 3 years working for the school board and teaching in the schools and doing different programs. And Saroma became my second home. I feel I'm kind of like half from Saroma, half from Palmer. And Saroma also really helped me learn about my own town. So it was really by listening to that one announcement in the morning that my journey of Japanese began. I think the excitement of learning Japanese is still fresh to me every day. Some things that really make me feel proud is when, let's say I'm reading something on a Japanese website and I can read the kanji and I get it and I understand. I'm like, yes, yatta, sore wakarimashita. Or if I'm traveling Japan or I'm walking in stores and I hear Japanese people speaking and I understand the conversation, it's always rewarding to be able to, enter that world. It's also really rewarding for me to see my students go on and choose to continue studying Japanese in college. I've had several students apply for JET and get to go over and teach in Japan. I was supposed to have a student going over to be a CIR through the JET program this year. Of course, coronavirus has stopped that for a little bit, but that's always really rewarding to me. Also, seeing students step outside their comfort zone and take on that challenge, whether it's getting up and doing their self-introduction in front of the class, whether it's presenting a poem, whether it's singing a song, whether it's going to an event that's outside of school, seeing kids, everyone has, you never know what's challenging to each person. We all have those different things. In high school, for me, it was singing in front of people. Thank goodness Japan got me over that, because when you go to Japan, everyone loves to sing karaoke, and you can be onchi demo daijoubu. You know, you can, you don't have to be a fantastic singer. And that being in that atmosphere brought me out of my shell. When I get the opportunity to work with exchange students or J-Leap teachers, I really understand where they're coming from, because I have been in their position. I know what it's like to be navigating a new world and trying to make sense and trying to communicate through another language. And it gives me, I think, a whole nother, I guess, authenticity to be able to, when I see an exchange student struggle, or I see a J-Leap teacher who's trying, you know, his or her new wings, and we had a lesson that didn't do great. You know, it's language and learning and teaching is a journey, and it's a step, and you've got to be willing to fail and reflect and see what you can do better, and also just be humble, I guess, gracious with yourself. You don't have to be perfect. I am not a perfect Japanese language speaker or writer, but that's part of the excitement of it, is I get to learn something new really every day from my students, with my J-Leap teachers. And I think that's why I love teaching, because every day is new. There's always room to keep growing. And that's what keeps me interested in the teaching profession. But also my advice is just to students and teachers is don't be hard on yourself. You don't have to be perfect. Just have an open mind and keep learning. I'm going to guess that 9 out of 10 people will say kanji, and I will agree. I think what makes Japanese, I believe, a level 4 language is the writing systems you have. Hiragana, katakana, kanji, and I include romanji in there as well. But the kanji, yes. But in a way, that's also exciting, because that's the challenge. And I know I have sometimes students who take Japanese and they'll tell me, I'm taking Japanese because it's different and I like the challenge. And kanji is going to challenge you. It still challenges me for sure. But a couple things that help me is these graded readers. I love these Japanese graded readers. My students read them and I read them. And it gives you success, because you can start at the level, and with the kanji, it's going to have the hiragana above it. And that just helps you feel successful as you grow your language. And I also discovered a app called Imiwa. I use it all the time. When I first started learning Japanese, because it was through exchange, I first started learning through the ear. So it wasn't through reading and it wasn't through writing. It was just being in the situation, and then me writing things down and asking questions. I think the key would be is you've got to learn to raise your hand and ask questions and not feel stupid by asking a question. My message to Japanese learners, one comes from a proverb that is senri no michi mo ippo kara. Even 1,000-mile journey begins with one step. For me, that first step was listening to that announcement and saying yes to an opportunity. So I would say yes to opportunities that come your way. Even if you think, let's say someone invites you to go to an anime convention and you're like, I don't like anime, it's not my thing, say yes. Be a hi person, because you may find by going to that anime convention that you discover something that you actually really love, or maybe you meet a Japanese friend, or maybe it's the Japanese food that you're exposed to, but you never know what you're going to get exposed to until you say yes. you may come back and say, anime wasn't for me, but you know what? You tried it. So I'd always say, try everything. Put yourself out there. Don't expect that you have to be perfect in something. Just expose yourself to the world, because that is the beauty of our world. And I would say, even today, even though we're in coronavirus times, we can make connections through, I'm making a connection through a Zoom interview that I probably wouldn't have done before coronavirus. So say yes to opportunities and see it as a journey, one step, and challenge yourself with things you love. I know I have a friend, she was in JET. She learned her Japanese through karaoke. No kidding. She watched singing shows. She would take the lyrics. She would learn those lyrics. She would learn that vocabulary, and she became a really proficient speaker. So find what you love and invest your time in those things that you love, but also be willing to try everything, because you might discover something else you love. And that is, I think, the beauty of language and culture and learning. Be a lifelong learner.